This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Sahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellowwallpod podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 395 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host Stefan Botzko, and today we will talk about Borussia Dortmund's 3-1 win against Mainz, the shellacking in Amsterdam, and how the Black and Yellows will make do without any fullbacks or strikers in Bielefeld. For that and more, joins me Matthias Zug. Hello Matthias, how are you doing?
I am recovering, Stefan. How are you doing?
I too am recovering, but I'm not sure we both mean the same thing.
No, it was last Saturday morning. I messaged you during Dortmund's game against Mainz, and I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, I have COVID, and it sucks. So despite fully vaccinated household and everything, it's just, sometimes it happens. But after almost a week, it's definitely better than it was, and I'm sure in a few days I'll be good to go. But it does hang around for a bit, and it is not fun. So if you can do your best, stop the spread, I would greatly appreciate it. Not that it'll do me a damn bit of good anymore.
Well, yeah, but I still haven't caught it, and I very much intend to keep it that way. But I did catch a headache this morning as I woke up and looked at my phone, and I was just riddled with push notifications of all the million players that are injured. So that's great, but let's not overextend you, Matthias, and try to keep this episode nice and short. There's not that much to talk about anyway, to be honest, if you really think about it. So let's start with the game against Mainz, and that game had a really decent start because Marco Reus pounced on a deflection in the box in the 3rd minute, and it was a classic Marco Reus strike, I would like to say, and absolutely hammered it into the top corner. There was absolutely nothing to say for Robin Zentner, and overall I thought that Mainz were rather passive, didn't really have much going forward, which I think is all very positive. I think the very first shot they had was by Stach, which was a free kick in the 36th minute, and that was blocked. So, obviously they did score eventually, but I don't feel like Mainz had, that many chances, and once Haaland made it 2-0 in the 54th minute after this, I don't know, somewhat dubious penalty call. I mean, if you look at it in the super slow motion, I think the hand of Widmer, the arm extends and does hit the ball, but I don't know if you need to give these kind of penalties, but this is the world we live in right now, and these kind of penalties are given, and Dortmund made it 2-0, and I was hoping for a clean sheet at this point, that they would lock all windows and doors and not let Mainz back in, and I feel like for the most part they almost managed to do that, but then Mainz started to press them a little bit harder, and in the 87th minute Jonathan Burkhardt then pounced on what I think was the very first sort of error by Gregor Kobel. His clearance was not very great, and Mainz capitalized. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, Jude Bellingham had an amazing tackle in the opponent's half, won the ball, passed it over to Erling Haaland, and it was 3-1, and that's 3 points in the bank. Dortmund back in 2nd place in the Bundesliga. And that is more or less the game in my view. So Matthias, I don't know what your thoughts are on this game, but I would have rather won 2-0 than 3-1. I would have enjoyed Dortmund to keep the clean sheet for once, which they still haven't done in the Bundesliga. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, a clean sheet would have been nice. Granted, this time, not keeping a clean sheet, Kobel can kind of blame himself to a degree, I think. But overall, it...
I mean, you can still defend the error at this point.
Yes, yeah. It's a win. Mainz were, in my opinion, very, very lucky to even still be in this, because I think Dortmund hit the frame of Mainz's goal twice, I believe, and really squandered a few very good chances, as is Dortmund's thing at times. They didn't have a ton of shots, 11, but they a lot of very good opportunities, dominated possession, outpassed Mainz. I mean, again, it was definitely a deserved victory. Bo Svensson from Mainz also agrees much. He said, there's not much to say about that. The first half was just very bad from Mainz. And then to try to make up with it in the final 10 minutes, as they did, just thankfully didn't work out. And it would have been exceptionally harsh if they would have walked away with a point from this match, because they didn't deserve it. So, I mean, it was great to see Haaland scoring. As far as the penalty goes, I personally don't think it's that dubious. The arm extends from the body, hits the ball, and changes the course of the ball. To me, that's always a handball. I don't care if you mean to do it or not. It's extending from your body. I hate the penalties where a guy's arm is like tucked into his body and he's just trying to not touch the ball, and it does touch him, and those penalties are given. Those are the ones that really drive me nuts. This one, I was like, had it been the other way around, I would have been like, yeah, okay, of course. That's a handball penalty. So be it. I think we've seen significantly worse decisions when it comes to handball over the last few years. And what is this, like the third or fourth year in a row that the handball penalty or rule has been changed? I honestly am not 100% sure what it is right now. But, it doesn't... And I tweeted it as well. I mean, you can argue about the penalty, but you can't argue the fact that Dortmund deserved to be 2-0 up at that point. So, I don't have any heartburn for that. And I don't think Mainz does either. Bo Svensson got a booking because he sarcastically applauded the referee who I thought did not have a great game. And he got the booking, and he admitted, yeah, no, I totally deserved that. I think he kind of knew he was going to get it. But overall, no, good game from Dortmund. Good victory, 3 points against a team that can be difficult ever since Bo Svensson took over.
Yeah, that's true. Rose said, I think the first thing he actually said at the press conference was that Dortmund did not expect Mainz to be that passive in the first half. And I thought Dortmund did find good solutions. I really liked the tactical ploy of having Julian Brandt sit very far on the right, and he was a really good passing outlet. Obviously, what also really helped is that Dortmund at times overloaded the left half space, something we saw a lot from the Tuchel era, and then pass it over to Meunier, who then has a lot of time and space to pick out a cross. And that worked pretty well, especially considering that at times Mainz had a back line of 6 players, and Dortmund still managed to find space, managed to keep possession, and if they lost it, won it back rather quickly. Mainz didn't really have too many outlets. They couldn't really hold onto the ball much. So in many ways, I thought there was a good performance with good tactical decisions that Dortmund made, and a deserved win. In the end, I think Rose said it himself that once Dortmund made it 2-0, that Dortmund made things way too difficult for themselves. I mean, Mats Hummels could have scored that one header too. Sort of came off his shoulder and whatnot. But I think, those are sort of the positives. The other positive is that there were 63,812 people in attendance, according to the official count. And, you could certainly feel it. It was a nice moment when Bellingham and Haaland after the game ran over to the Südtribüne again and rocked the stadium one more time. Those are obviously the images you live for as a fan, and love to see it. But, there are a couple of things that irked me a little bit, and one was that Haaland did even have to play this long after coming back from injury, and now that we know that he's going to be out for several weeks, and we don't know how long that will be, it irks me even more. Rose explained that he wanted to take him off sooner, but didn't feel like he could because Haaland is so strong at defensive set pieces, and I think that's something I actually mentioned myself on the Yellowwallpod. That one of the major Haaland improvements is that he is one of the most capable set piece defenders that Dortmund have right now. And I guess the coach agrees. And while I understand that sort of thinking, I also feel like it's not a good idea to play Haaland this long. And if we switch over to the Ajax game, that Haaland was even still on the field when Ajax made it 3-0 or 4-0, was kind of baffling to me, to be honest. I feel like he should have come off way sooner. I don't even know if he came off in the end. I don't think he did. So, that's poor management in my view, especially since you should learn from the past a little bit, because the last time, I don't even know, was it around the same time of the year when Haaland missed 4, 5, 6 games and Dortmund sort of tanked and Favre got fired? This can obviously happen again, and is something that I'm gravely worried about, since it's not only Haaland that is injured right now, but I think 8 players right now that are valuable members of the first team. And if we look at the schedule, obviously Dortmund now play Bielefeld, who are in 17th place in the Bundesliga. That should be a winnable tie, even without Haaland and all the injured folks. Then it's Ingolstadt, who are, I think, last place in the second division right now in the cup. But then you play against Cologne, who are a very tough opponent, even though they just got shellacked by Hoffenheim. Then you have to host Ajax, which is not easy. And then you play against Leipzig, Stuttgart and Sporting, and if you even look further, there's Wolfsburg and Bayern on the horizon. So you really wonder how long Haaland will be injured, and if it's too long, Dortmund's season can really take a downturn, which is a shame, because right now, at least in the Bundesliga, they sit in second place and are gradually improving a little bit. So to me, that's very annoying. Matthias, if we switch over to the Ajax game, what are you making of this 4-0 drubbing?
Well, one, Ajax are really, 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 really good. I do watch a fair amount of Eredivisie because ESPN Plus does carry it. And I'm always, every time Ajax play, I'm like, ooh, I wonder if anybody's going to stop them. And the answer is like, ooh, no, they're not.
Well, Utrecht did.
Yeah, I mean, Ajax so far this season has conceded 2 goals domestically.
3.
3 now?
No, yeah, 2.
I thought it was 2.
I don't know. I think it's 2. You're right.
And that's not a lot of goals to concede, Borussia Dortmund. They are impressive. They are well drilled, well oiled. What I don't like, and this is less about the match itself, but kind of the reverberations afterwards, was the analysis of, oh my God, look at how horrible Dortmund is, and always ignoring how good Ajax is, and almost being surprised that Ajax is good. Let's not forget, this team was like moments away from being in the Champions League final just a couple of seasons ago with a much younger, less experienced squad. So Ajax are definitely extremely good. Beyond that, Dortmund, looking at them, yeah, it seemed naive. I mean, the beginning actually wasn't that bad. I thought after the first 5-10 minutes, I'm like, this is an open, high-tempo game. This could be really interesting, play into Dortmund's strengths. And then it didn't. And not even a little. Even though Dortmund did have chances, the XG is surprisingly close. And Haaland had some great opportunities that he squandered. Dortmund just seemed a little flat. They seemed a little tired. Way more so than Ajax, who have it much easier. It's kind of like Bayern. Week in, week out, Bayern have it a little bit easier. And so when they have to play during the week, they don't seem as tired as all the other teams that have to fight every weekend. And maybe that was part of it with Ajax, because, they're walking the Eredivisie right now. And Dortmund's plan if there was one, it didn't work. Witsel and Brandt, there was no center of the pitch. There just wasn't. They were completely manhandled. And then Dortmund's left side was, Nico Schulz got owned by Antony. He may even wake up in cold sweats in the middle of the night with nightmares of what was done to him. And then Emre Can came on, and I went, you know what? Nico Schulz actually wasn't doing that bad of a job. It would have been better, in my opinion, to bring Emre Can in the middle. In my opinion, at hindsight being what it is, keep Nico Schulz on and bring Can in for Brandt.
I think his muscle fibers tore.
That's true. You could have done... When you saw that Emre Can was getting owned...
Yeah, just play Schulz on crutches, it's fine.
Or Torgan Hazard at left wing back, switch to a back three, something different. And it seemed that Marco Rose was also overwhelmed by what was happening, and at some point just kind of went, you know what, screw it, it's done, it's over, there's no chance. There's nothing we can do to change things right now. I disagree with that. I think if he would have switched to a formation that I'm sure you're going to talk about in our preview of the Bundesliga match in terms of, hey, maybe play with these guys in this type of formation, maybe that would have done something against Ajax, at least made them more accountable on the wings. But yeah, Ajax played really well. If Haaland would have scored one or two of those goals, I don't think it would have changed the end result of an Ajax win. And it shouldn't have. Ajax were better. They completely deserved the victory. There is no hard done in this one. It was Ajax won by being better than Dortmund, and not just because Dortmund didn't play well, but Ajax just played exceptionally well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this is my assessment too. Jordan Hunt DM'd me and basically said, I'm hoping for a big rant from yourselves and hopefully Matthias. But I already told him, I just sort of accepted the fact that Ajax right now are a team that's extremely well coached, and Dortmund are just not there on the same level where Ajax are. And that's absolutely not surprising because Dortmund have gone through a million coaching changes, and if you play like Ajax does, then there are certain key factors that need to happen for you. And I think the first one is very important. That's health. You need to have a very healthy team because if you want to play this sort of pressing style, which, Ajax played a very intense style. And if you want to play that, you need to have your key players healthy on a consistent level because the most important factor of this playing style actually are automatism, because we still know it from the best years of the Jürgen Klopp era, and of course from the Tuchel era, and then of course not so much from the Bosch era, because by then Dortmund players just weren't ready, didn't have the squad to play this kind of pressing style anymore. But you need to have a consistent starting 11, or at least a consistent core of players that know each other and know exactly what to do and where to be. And I just accept the fact that at this point in time, Borussia Dortmund as a club and as a team just cannot replicate such cohesion. It's just totally impossible to me. And time is one reason, health is another factor, but I also think the squad that Dortmund have just does not allow them to be this cohesive. And I think you were quite on point when you mentioned Witsel and Brandt, because both of those players to me will never help you to play in a cohesive way as Ajax did. Obviously the entire problem that Dortmund have is that they're a bit tired right now, and if Dortmund press, it's half-hearted. It's one of my major criticisms that you have 3-4 players maybe that press, but the rest of the team doesn't push up high enough. So you give and afford players like Ajax players outlets. And if a team like Ajax has a very good positional play, they will just find options and then they will just crush you. And that's exactly what Ajax did. So, Julian Brandt is not this sort of pressing player, even though I think in the press conference said that he played under Roger Schmidt and that for Leverkusen he knows exactly what to do. But I disagree. If you see him play, I don't think he's aggressive enough. And at the same time, he is not a good enough ball handler I want him to be or imagine him to be, because he was mucked a couple of times in very awkward situations where on that level you just can't afford to. And with Axel Witsel, I think the story is similar, but still a bit different. It's just that he is not fast enough to be this kind of player. It's just the same debate you can have about can you play a very aggressive style with Mats Hummels at the back, because you need to push up so high as a collective. And the lack of pace obviously means vulnerability there. So, as much as I want to rant about all the things that Dortmund got wrong on that day, I think we should just appreciate how darn good Ajax are. And I think there are not many teams right now in European football that can replicate this kind of cohesion. Obviously, there are other teams that have individual better players. But as we as Dortmund fans know very well, if you have this unit on the field that really hunts the ball and then plays quickly, it doesn't even matter how good your players individually are if you have this sort of momentum on the field. And I almost sat back and enjoyed what Ajax did and did not concern myself too much with what Dortmund were doing, because they were just out of their depth. And I think in this context it's a good thing it happens, because it really glaringly shows what you need to improve as a team. And I hope that Dortmund can take this sort of blueprint almost and try to fix things. But it's nothing that will be fixed overnight. I think this is a development that will take a season if you even ever get there, because getting and replicating what Ajax is doing is probably one of the hardest things to do in football. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's a system that's been around for over 50 years. I mean, the system of Ajax has been that way since the early 70s.
But you can play this way in a different system.
Yes. Yeah, no, I know. I mean, just the cohesion, if you think back to those Barcelona systems, I mean, that's one thing like Pep Guardiola or Jürgen Klopp do so exceptionally well is, yes, they also have a ton of money in the teams that they have, but the dominance they exert just when that system, so to speak, gets to rolling is truly phenomenal. And like you said, you don't have to have the best squad in the world to be able to replicate that and do that well. I mean, that's been definitely proven time and time again. Adi Hütter and Eintracht Frankfurt, that first season when the three they had up front, and that whole system just beat teams up, and it works. And Dortmund's just not there yet. And how can it be with the amount of injuries that they have? And you can't forget there are so many players at Ajax that have been playing together for many, many years. I mean, Dusan Tadic, he's been there now quite a while, and he was a dominant factor. And for me, getting back to the lineup put together, and this is where I will put it at Rose's feet, I understand what he was trying to go for with Witsel and Brandt, but one of those players should have been Emre Can. I'll be honest, as a box-to-box presence together with Bellingham, because Bellingham was alone and lost most of the time.
I think Can for Witsel would have probably made more sense, actually.
Yeah.
Because you still need the the ball distribution by Brandt, because Witsel usually obviously is Mr. Play it safe, but if you're being pressed the way Witsel was pressed, he also struggled in a way. That doesn't mean that Brandt wasn't struggling, but I think he at least has a bit more dynamicism to him that can maybe help him alongside Bellingham and Can. But I fully agree with you.
And what we saw, in my opinion, is how important Mahmoud Dahoud is.
Yeah.
Because he does exceptionally well when pressed. He also presses, counter presses very well. And if you can take someone like in that Witsel position, that was a Freudian slip right there. And where Mahmoud Dahoud sits, kind of that deep-lying playmaker role, you have someone who's pressing resistant, who can press and distribute the ball really well, also into the channels, which Witsel can't do. Witsel is decent at playing at this point. He's 32 when the ball in the play is well ahead of him. If he has to turn, you're toast. It's done. And that wasn't the case 3 years ago, but that's where it is now. I mean, we can't forget he's also had at least one major injury in that time, and you start to see that at this point. And Emre Can being played at left back, let's just not ever do that again. I mean, he looked exceptionally out of place playing there and very uncomfortable, and so yeah, he should have done much better. I can't remember if it was the third or fourth goal where you don't have to be a left back to just be able to jump and challenge a header.
Yeah, against Alea. That was the fourth, I think.
But that was just bad. That was pathetic all around. That was also where Brandt lost the ball in the middle of the pitch, and it just kind of summed up.
Yeah, there were so many mistakes in that entire goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can talk about this one Hummels header that was sort of cleared to the middle. There were just so many mistakes, but talking about players that sort of don't fit, I feel like, at least in this game, we really have to talk about Daniel Malen, because I was really disappointed by the performance he showed, because it wasn't only that he was almost able on the offensive side of the ball, but then when he wasn't involved with the ball, he also didn't really track back much. And we just talked about how Schulz got owned and Emre Can later too. And I feel like this is, also symptomatic of Malen's performance, because, I think he got subbed off in the 53 minutes, and like 1 or 2 minutes before that, there was just a moment where, I don't even know who it was. Might have been, I don't know who it was, but there was a player by Ajax who started, behind Malen, and in the end ran all the way through the box and had a really good chance. And to me, it's just unacceptable if you don't pick up sort of runs like this on Champions League level. If this happens against Bielefeld, I can maybe just kind of understand, but not really. I feel like if you have nothing else going for you, at least do your homework and try to read the game and make the runs, and not just drop your shoulders and stop running. That's something that really annoyed me, and in one situation really summed up how terrible and pathetic his performance was. And I really hope that he improves, because when Hazard came on, that obviously helped a little bit. But now I don't want to really ponder too much on this game, to be honest, because we can all agree that Ajax was really good. Dortmund looked tired, they're decimated, and just don't have much of a chance against an opponent like this. But even in this sort of game, I think Erling Haaland had 2 really good opportunities to score. One was saved and sort of deflected to the bar. And a little bit unlucky, but these things happen. You can't expect Haaland to score 100% of the chances he gets, to be honest, even though you sort of low-key do. Let's just move on to the Bielefeld game. And I guess the aftermath of the Ajax game sort of trickles into this because Nico Schulz is out, and I haven't really looked at the minute sheet that Nico Schulz has. He has a torn muscle fiber, same injury that Guerreiro has. In Rafael Guerreiro's case, I would say I can sort of understand that, but in Nico Schulz's case, I honestly cannot, because I'm looking at it. He has played 484 minutes so far. He has played 5 games in the Bundesliga, but not all over 90 minutes. And I think he was already out with a muscular injury before. But the Mainz game was the second game he played for 90 minutes. Before it was 8 against Gladbach, and then 18 against Augsburg, and then 90 against Mainz. So I'm just endlessly frustrated that players that are German internationals, that don't have all this huge load, that they get injured too. Obviously, it can be unlucky, but we have this saying, always luck is skill. And I think if you sort of turn this around, if you're always unlucky, then there's maybe something lacking there. And I think if you read the comments under Dortmund's tweet right now, a lot of Dortmund fans are just endlessly frustrating with the medical staff of Borussia Dortmund. And obviously, neither of us is a doctor, and neither of us can really assess what's going on and if everything is being done right. But it's just, I just have a bitter taste in my mouth looking at all these injuries, especially muscular injuries, where I just feel like things are being drastically mishandled. And that's all I'm going to say about this. It's obviously a shame that Meunier is out too. I think that's his toe thing, but I think Rose didn't really specify it. Haaland has a muscle injury in his hip now. So, yeah, this all freaking sucks, especially if you add this to the injuries Dortmund already have with Dahoud, with Gio Reyna, who, might be out for even further. I think Rose said that there's not really any betterment on the horizon. So this is really a shitty situation, Matthias. If you look at the players that are out right now, that are regular players, it's Dahoud, it's Guerreiro, it's Haaland. We have Meunier out, Moret is still out, Mokoko is out, Reyna's out, and then Schulz is out, and Zagadou, I guess, is also still out, even though at least he's recovering. So that's a very long list. And I'm not entirely sure how this lineup will go. Kicker is projecting a lineup with Paslak and Can as the fullbacks next to Akanji and Pongracic. But against Bielefeld, I'm going down a different route. I think Dortmund should switch to a back 3 with Hummels, Pongracic, and Akanji as the back 3, and then you have Hazard and Wolf as the wingbacks, and then you have a midfield of Brandt, Can, and Bellingham, and then up front you have Malen and Royce. That obviously does not leave you with many substitution options. Maybe Knauf can get some minutes. I don't know if Tobias Raschel will be on the bench, or we'll have some players from the under 23s and under 19s. But I guess your options then are maybe Renier and Tigges. And that's pretty much it. And you better hope that no center back falls injured. But obviously it's going to be a difficult trip to Bielefeld, Matthias. So what are you even expecting of this game from a tired and decimated Dortmund side?
Well, I'm still expecting a win against Arminia Bielefeld on the Alm, which is actually a nice little stadium, nice little part of Germany. You should go visit. It does exist, contrary to popular belief. And that was actually the last football match I saw in a stadium was an Arminia Bielefeld match.
Congratulations.
Yes, it was against Bochum when both were in the second Bundesliga. So it's been a couple of years. But I think the lineup you suggest makes the most sense. Does that mean that's the lineup we're going to see? I don't know. I mean, Marius Wolf playing at fullback, I totally agree with. I think that that's, whether it's fullback, wingback, I don't care. He should definitely play. If you are going to play with a back 4, I would prefer to see Marius Wolf as a fullback on the right side, and honestly, then Felix Passlack as a fullback on the left side, because at least he is a fullback and he's played there. I don't think we should put Emre Can out there. I'd rather see Manuel Akanji as a fullback because he's done it before, and then you've got Hummels and Pongracic. The problem we have is simply backline cohesion cannot exist as long as so many players are injured.
Yeah. Also, it can exist for the full 90 minutes, my lineup, because Hummels has to be subbed off.
Correct.
Before.
Correct. And at that point, you have to drop Emre Can into the backline, which he's okay at as in a back three central defender, and then you put Witzel in central midfield or something like that. I really miss Thomas Delaney, by the way. But if we, Dortmund, they have 6 fullbacks in their squad list and 5 are injured. I mean,
freaking crazy.
It's not that Dortmund don't have fullbacks. Okay, that was our discussion a few years ago. Dortmund have fullbacks. They're just all hurt, except Felix Passlack. And if Felix Passlack is your one fullback left, you have some issues. But I think Torgan Hazard and Marius Wolf at the fullback or wingback positions make sense against Arminia Bielefeld. Would it make sense against Bayern München? No. But against Arminia Bielefeld, I think that's definitely a doable solution. And then beyond that, like you said, you can't really have a ton of subs. Don't expect 5 substitutions or God knows how many in this match because Dortmund just don't have enough players. Yeah, they'll bring in some players from the under-23s or under-19s. Marco Rose kind of alluded to that. But what are you going to do? I had somebody on Twitter suggest, Stefan Tigges start for Haaland. Sorry, no. Tigges, we talked about this pre-pod. If Stefan Tigges has the perfect career, he will be a decent second Bundesliga striker. He can aspire to be Simon Terodde. Beyond that, he's just not good enough. The question has to be asked between Erling Haaland, Donyell Malen, Youssoufa Moukoko, and Stefan Tigges. Those are the 4 listed as strikers in Dortmund's squad. Stefan Tigges is the oldest. He is the oldest of that group. And he plays in the under-23s. So I think that says where Stefan Tigges fits in.
And he is 23.
Yeah. This is Stefan Tigges next season, Zweite Bundesliga. And I wish him the best of luck. He seems like a nice kid. But he is not Dortmund's...
Not a kid anymore.
Erling. Yeah, and he's not... Well, compared to me. He's not Erling Haaland, obviously. But he's not going to be that. I'd rather see Ansgar Knauf, which was floated by Rose in the press conference. So you have Knauf and Donyell Malen as strikers? No. I like your formation. Send Marco a WhatsApp message and say, don't sweat it, bro. This is what we're going to go with. And then bank the 3 points, right?
Well, if it would ever happen that I get to suggest a lineup and maybe even a strategy, this is 100% a game that Dortmund will lose. So, it's... if I remember the last game in Bielefeld, I think it was it 1-0 or 2-0 where Mats Hummels scored? It wasn't much of a fun trip for Dortmund, let's put it this way. And, Julian Brandt was sort of raving at the pregame press conference of what an amazing game it will be in Amsterdam and how great the Johan Cruyff Arena is, yada yada. Even though I think for football romantics like you and me, I think playing in Bielefeld is probably just a great occasion, but I'm not sure it has the same amount of ring to it for these Dortmund players. So seeing this is an away game against a struggling Bundesliga team that are in the relegation zone right now, and I feel like might have a very hard time getting out of it. This is to me the classic game where Dortmund usually stumble over their own, what's. And considering how many injuries they have and how tired the legs will be, if Dortmund come away with 3 points, I'm not going to be surprised. That's probably too far, but it's going to be a struggle game for sure, and it's probably not going to be that fun to watch. So I guess everyone managed your expectations, and if Bielefeld have a couple of good set piece situations, this thing can go south very quickly for Dortmund. And I don't think there's too many things and too many ways Dortmund can react from externally, from the outside, that Marco Rose can really do if Dortmund are not really clicking. So obviously I want to see a reaction from that loss against Ajax, even though I don't think Dortmund particularly played poorly necessarily in Amsterdam. It was just that the opponent was that much better. And by poorly, I mean measured or compared to other Dortmund performances. I think they played where they usually play, just that they were outgunned. So if Dortmund can replicate such a performance they showed against Mainz or in other games before, I think they should be fine. If they play like they did play away to Gladbach, then I don't think they will be fine. So I kind of, if I go for a scoreline prediction, I want to say it's going to be a draw, but I don't really think that Bielefeld are that strong. Obviously, it's going to feel a bit like a cup fight, but Dortmund still should have this one covered. So I'm going to say Dortmund will win this 2-1 in a very ugly fashion. What's your prediction?
Yeah, I will concur with that. Bielefeld will make it very uncomfortable for Dortmund. I expect an aggressively low block, especially without an Erling Haaland there. We've seen these matches without Haaland when the other team just tortoise shells themselves in, or as I like to call it, chicken shit football. Then Dortmund, they struggle with the solutions and unlocking them. And as long as Bielefeld can be cohesive and disciplined, it's going to be a difficult one. So, but if they show any cracks, Dortmund will torch them even without Haaland.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, I think 2-1 is a very reasonable score line. I wouldn't even be surprised if Dortmund are comfortable at 2-0 and then, like an 89th minute corner makes everybody pucker up again.
I mean, the thing is, Bielefeld
minutes.
At home so far in 4 games have only scored 1 goal and they've conceded 5. And overall, they've never scored more than 1 goal in any Bundesliga game, and they're winless so far. So that all being said,
it's because Frank Kramer isn't a great Bundesliga coach either. So, okay, fine. You've convinced me, Stefan. 3-0. 3-0 Dortmund win.
Yeah, I think we play a weak opponent, and we're very lucky to play a weak opponent this week because, if we were up against Bayern or Wolfsburg or any sort of team that's somewhat good, heck, even Leverkusen, this would just be a shellacking again. And so in this case, Dortmund are lucky that they have, 2 opponents that are not, at the precipice of football right now. That's all I'm going to say. So if Dortmund don't come away with all 3 points, I think there's going to be some level of disappointment, because even if things are not looking too great and, we have to puzzle a little bit here and there for the starting lineup, I still think in the end, this should be a team that should get away with all 3 points in Bielefeld. But that being said, it's still Bundesliga football, and unless you're playing in Fürth or against Fürth, the opponents are still formidable. Let's put it this way. So, yeah, with all that being said, Matthias, where can people annoy you if your prediction was entirely wrong?
Well, first of all, I blame you because you talked me into it. But you can find me on Twitter at Matthias Suk.
Very well. You can find me at Stefan Butzko on Twitter. You can follow all of us at Yellowwallpod on Twitter and Facebook if you want to support us financially, go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/theyellowwall. Of course, you can subscribe to this podcast in all ways and forms, but of course, it would help us out if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's all for this this week. I'm really hoping that next week there may be some good news from the sick bay. And in the meantime, as always, thank you for listening and goodbye.